What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining my channel. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Today I've got an amazing video. I'm going to do my 10 scariest movies that I have ever seen. Let's go. Now, when it comes to scary movies, it is extremely subjective. It's up to you. What scares you might not scare me, and vice versa. This is only my list. These are what scared me personally, and I cannot wait to hear you guys' responses. I cannot wait to see you guys' comments on what scared you and why it scared you, because various reasons. You could experience it personally. It could have been something that was very close to home for you. Who knows? But I wanted to share with you 10 movies that absolutely terrified me at one point in my life. So let's go. Now, when I made this list, there was one that I had to mention, but it didn't make my top 10. So an honorable mention for me: Nightmare on Elm Street, the very first one. When I saw this, the idea of Freddy Krueger is absolutely terrifying. A killer that gets you in your dreams, absolutely terrifying. It missed this list for me because I saw it later in life, and by the time I saw it, it didn't really land as much as it, I guess, should have and would have had I seen it earlier. But it is still very great, still an amazing movie, and one that did scare me, just not so much as the other ones I'm going to mention. That's my honorable mention. Coming in at number 10, I'm going to go with Pet Sematary. I saw this movie. I don't remember how young I was. I was absolutely terrified of this movie.
I'm coming for you, Rachel. And this time, I'll get you.
Cage, and I will get you
For letting us die.
We had just at my house either buried a goldfish or a parakeet, something like that. Two very docile creatures. But when I saw this movie, it terrified me. I couldn't stop looking in the backyard, thinking they were going to come back to get me. And just as I get older, I still very much appreciate this movie even more, because it's just such a dark, depressing movie. Now, it's not as scary to me now as it once was, but I still have to, after the movie's over, I have to watch a comedy. I have to watch something to put me in a better mindset, because the movie's very grim. You can't leave that movie like nothing happened due to the events that take place in the movie. And since I've had children, I have not watched this movie, and I don't want to watch the movie because of what happens to Gage. Fun fact, some of you may know this already. I named my dog Gage after Gage from Pet Sematary, which is ironic. Ended up being terrified of the movie because of Pet Sematary, and now my dog's name is Gage. I actually met the guy that played Gage some years ago and mentioned to him about the dog. He got a kick out of that. But this movie, if you haven't seen it already, again, it's a tad dated. It's still better than the remake. It's better than the Pet Sematary that came out in 1989. I believe it was 1989, was the best of the entire franchise. Better than the second one, better than the Bloodlines. I think it was called Bloodlines, and the remake that they did. The remake wasn't bad, but this one just had an uncomfortability and a level of a fear factor to it. Even Victor Pascal, who was a good guy, or was a helpful ghost, was terrifying in his own right. So that's my number 10, Pet Sematary. Coming in at number 9, I'm going to go with Candyman. Kind of the same reasons of Pet Sematary. I saw this one at a young age, and it wasn't the first movie that I saw, but I had never seen a villain just as physically imposing and terrifying as Candyman, played by the late great Tony Todd. Everything about this movie was unsettling. The ironic part about it is the score of this movie is beautiful. But when you put that alongside what's happening, and then the backstory that makes Candyman, all of it is it's you can feel bad for Candyman, but also be absolutely terrified of him at the same time. To the point where when I saw this poster as a kid, I didn't even want to see the poster. The poster alone scared me. This movie was one of the first ones I remember really getting to me and causing sleepless nights. So yeah, number 9 for me is Candyman. Now coming in number 8, some of you guys might not agree with this. I've seen some people kind of talk that this one isn't very scary, but I'm going to explain why. Number 8 for me is Session 9, one of the scariest movies I've ever watched in my entire life. So a little backstory. The very first time I ever saw this movie, I had a long day working and I watched it late at night. Fell asleep. Now I will say it was slow the first time that I watched it. I was also very tired. I woke up to Simon's voice. If you've seen this movie, waking up to that voice is not something that you want to do. So obviously, after it was over, I watched it again. Every time I watch this movie, it gets darker and more unsettling. This will be slight spoilers here. So if you have not seen this movie, fast forward this part. Just know that Session 9 is one of the most terrifying movies you'll ever watch. Now, I'm going to get to my spoiler section of it. When you think of Gordon and you see the breakdown of him, but you realize when the events that get showed at the end, when they actually took place with his family, and the fact that the entirety of the movie went on after the tragic events already took place. It's super terrifying. And again, Simon's voice kind of put that icing on a cake of just a very isolated film, a very psychological film. So for me, I tend to get more out of the psychological movies. I like the slow burns. Now, it has to be something to keep me going, to keep me there. And this movie, the playing of the tapes and with the previous tapes with Mary Hobbs, that is what keeps you throughout. And then you're trying to figure out what's going on. But I thought it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. And for me, one of the scariest movies I've ever watched, Session 9. Coming in at number 7, I'm going to go with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, the people involved, the victims involved, did not do themselves any favors. They checked off everything not to do in a horror movie. But not only Leatherface, but the entire family was terrifying. The fact that no matter where you went when you thought you had a reprieve, that you were still wrapped up in their family was terrifying. The fact that Leatherface wears human skin and wields a chainsaw and is a massive individual is also terrifying. Everything about this movie, from what I really like and what really got to me, was the way it was filmed.
Hello!
It was filmed to be very gritty, grimy, and dirty, which exemplified what you were watching, to the point where when it's over, kind of like I said about Pet Sematary, you really can't get this movie out of your head, not that easily. It's not quite as grim from my perspective as Pet Sematary is, because of the way that it ends, but still very unsettling and very scary. I could watch the movie today and I still get rattled by it. It's a very good film. So number 7 for me, scariest movie I've ever seen, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. All right, coming in at number 6 for me, I'm going to go with the original Halloween. You guys know this is my favorite horror movie ever. This is my favorite slasher villain ever. However, and it's also very scary. Now, as time goes on, it's not as scary as it doesn't land like it once did. But I mentioned in previous videos, when Michael Myers, when Sam Loomis looked down and Michael Myers was gone, I really thought he was in my backyard. I did not sleep that night. And one of the things that scared me the most about this movie was the fact that Michael Myers would be stalking from a distance. We would know he's there, but the victims wouldn't. And it makes you think that it seemed very plausible and possible for a person to do things like that. Now, it hadn't gone to the point at this point, this is the first movie, where so many things happen to him that it's not believable that he can survive. But back then, when it seemed he was a seemingly unstoppable, unkillable human being, because that's how it was portrayed early on. How terrifying is that? And no matter what, and he always knew where you were in your most vulnerable positions. So for me, number 6, the original Halloween, absolutely terrifying. All right, we're in the top 5, guys. The number 5 scariest movie that I've ever seen, The Strangers, the original one. Now, as much as I love Halloween as being my favorite slasher film, there is no slasher film scarier, in my opinion, than The Strangers. Everything that I liked and loved about Halloween was done in this movie, more updated because it's a newer movie, and the tension was perfect. I think of the scene when when the friend came to help.
Cause mama tried. Dear old daddy, rest his soul, left my mom a heavy load. She tried so very hard to fill his shoes, working hours without rest, wanted me to have the best. She tried to raise me right, but I refused. And I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but mama tried, mama tried, mama tried to raise me better. But her pleading I denied, that leaves only me to blame, cause mama tried.
And came to pick up the main character, and the tension in that scene when he's walking throughout the house, the music's playing in the background, and you see the male stranger walk up behind him holding the axe. We all know, and then that's again, like I just talked about, why Halloween was so scary was because of so many times Michael Myers would be stalking from a distance. This did the same thing. And in that scene alone, you just like, turn around. But it was so well done. And then what happens to the friend? Like, of all the stuff that could have happened. But this movie was terrifying to me. And it still holds up just as well today. I liked Pray at Night. I did not like this newer one, Strangers Chapter 1, I think it was. It was a retread of this movie, but not nearly as good. So for me, number 5, scary movie I've ever seen, Strangers, the original. Coming in number 4, I'm going to go with The Witch. Me and my brother saw this movie in the theaters during the daytime. This was the first movie I've ever seen in the theater in my life that when it was over, I had the glued to your seat feeling. I literally felt my body pill when I got up from the chair. That's how intense this movie was. Now, was it a little slow? Yes. But Roger Edgars does a great job of making you feel like you're in the movie and in the time that he's trying to portray you to be into. So, and when you also get attached to the characters. So when the terror happens, it happens at a deeper level than just a surface level jump scare. It's a more of a burning deep down type terror than it is surface. Like I said, it's not surface level. The Black Phillip, something as simple as a goat and a rabbit, were just very unsettling. And I was a grown man when I saw this movie. And I mean, it definitely stuck with me. Number 4 for me, scariest movie I've ever seen, The Witch. And number 3, I'm going to go with Hereditary. Same kind of thing with The Witch. I'm going to go see it with my brother during the daytime. And when I left the movie, I was shook. Absolutely shook. Again, kind of slow like The Witch, but it was a build up. And the moment with the pole, you all know it if you've seen it. From that point forward, it was just intense, unsettling, and very, very terrifying. Toni Collette should have won an Oscar that year for that role. And just everything that happened from that point forward, kind of on the same heels as I was talking about with Halloween and The Strangers. I love when your focus is on something on the screen, but up in the corner or somewhere off center, there's something terrible happening or brooding or starting to happen. After the scene with the son when he was in his bed and Toni Collette was perched up in the corner like a spider, chills, instant chills. And then from that point forward, it was just one thing after another. I felt so bad for the father. I felt horrible for him in this movie because he really did nothing wrong and just didn't have a good time at all. But the third Scariest movie for me, this is my Exorcist. The way that people talk about The Exorcist, this is my generation's Exorcist to me. So for the third Scariest movie I've ever seen, Hereditary. Coming in at number 2. Try to think about what I will say here. Number 2, Scariest movie I've ever seen, Sinister. Like I said about Pet Sematary, since I've had children, I have not watched this movie, and I am not going to watch this movie again until my kids are way old and not. No, I'm not going to watch this movie. And I saw this movie before I had kids, and it was still terrifying. The way the director used sound in this movie was magnificent. The 8mm videos that they were watching, coupled with the music that was happening while they were watching, again, like I said about Hereditary, instant chills, absolutely chills. And when you have kids involved, it makes it scarier because they're supposed to be so innocent. And it makes it scarier. I cannot say enough good things about this movie. If you haven't seen Sinister, you're missing out. It is for me, it's number 2, but it is one of the scariest films that you will ever see. There's no way around it at all. The acting was good, was done in it well. The fact that you were alongside for the ride with these characters, and then the horror starts. It's near perfection as far as a scary movie goes. There's some thing online that was like they tested like heart rate or something, and according to that test, Sinister is the scariest movie ever made based on that test. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I saw it somewhere a few years ago online. It's close. It's number 2 for me. So number 2 for me, Sinister. The number 1 scariest film that I've ever seen, Paranormal Activity 1. This movie broke me down to my soul. It was so terrifying. So I was house hunting at the time the movie was coming out for my first home. One of the houses that I was looking at, I almost got, looked exactly like this house. And the thing that made this even more scary was if you like any house could look like that. It could happen anywhere to anyone based on that film. And the way that they use the found footage, before found footage became this well overused trope, back when this movie came out, there was really only Blair Witch Project and maybe a handful of others. But Blair Witch was so far before it that this felt fresh. Now, you can go to Tubi or Peacock and find a found footage section with just found footage horror movies. So that's another reason to show the impact this movie had, because that impact wasn't there for Blair Witch. Blair Witch was really strong, but it didn't have the impact on the genre the way this movie did. Now, back to the fear factor here. If you haven't noticed, by the way my list goes, I think demons or religious films are like my top four. Those get to me more so than anything having to do with humans, because you can fight a human being. Like you might lose, but you can at least have a fighting chance. When it comes to stuff like that, you really can't. Now, Mika didn't really do anything to help himself in this movie. He kind of antagonized the demon here, but the way that the jump scares were filmed, the subtlety of the door moving, the shadows, it was just such a well done movie and so scary. To, I mean, even now I can go back and watch it, and obviously I've seen it so many times, so it doesn't scare me as much, but it got me so deeply that every movie I've watched since then have just not even come close to that feeling, including Hereditary, because that came out later on. I've never, I think Sinister was after that too, but I have never felt that level of fear. And I was a grown man at that time when I saw this movie. Absolutely terrified me. By far, the scariest film I have ever watched. Here's the important part now, guys. I want to know what you guys thought were your scariest. If you've lasted me this long, thank you so much for joining me. It's the Glad's Horror Channel, the best horror channel here on YouTube. Like this video, share this video, comment, let me know what you guys thought. Maybe a different subgenre of horror scares you, and you don't get scared by demon religious horror. Maybe there's a different type. Maybe it's the gore that scares you. I want to know. Tell me in the comments, guys. Thanks for joining me again. See you guys next time.